Hello, everybody. You are listening to The Soloists. My name is Diana Brown. I'm here with my friend and co-host Mallory Everton. And today our guest is David Boice. And David is known for his popular YouTube channel, 52 Churches in 52 Weeks. What year did you start this, David?
Oh boy, I started this October 2014, doing this the first time.
Okay, so by this point you visited far, far more than 52.
Just a tad.
I didn't realize it had been going that long. That's incredible.
Well, I had breaks. So like I've done 3 rounds now, but the first time was over a decade ago. So it's been a journey.
Well, obviously, people probably come to you all the time and are like, oh, what do you learn by visiting all of these different religious congregations about religion and, and faith and God and all of that? And I'm sure you just are a wealth of knowledge that way. But you've also experienced the social climate of so many different places. And you've kind of become an expert along the way about how different places do hospitality and fellowship and conversion, or just integrating you into the community, and essentially how they manage the route from being like a stranger to becoming an insider. So we just wanted to talk about this, and I think there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to think through.
I appreciate it. And I've been a huge fan of you guys since the very beginning, especially after I joined the church. So to appear on The Soloist, and listening to other podcasts, like I don't mean to sound like I have like a zombie appetite, but I like your brains, okay? Like just the articulation and just the thought-provoking type of discussions and conversations that you have. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Oh, what a huge compliment.
Yeah. So coming from a Protestant evangelical side, like when I started this whole 52 churches in 52 weeks spiritual experiment, like it was after a bad first date. And I just remember we sat down just at the bar area, and it's just like, we get talking about church. It's like I've always been looking for like a Christ-centered relationship that lead to marriage and kids. I think that's what we all, as a single, especially within the church, kind of is geared for. And like we got talking, and she's talking to me about a Foursquare church. I have no idea what a Foursquare church is. And she's telling me about all the things that she loves in the community and the pastor, and just glowing about it. And then here I am, and I hadn't gone to my church. Maybe I'd gone once or twice in the past year. So all of a sudden it's kind of hitting me where I'm like, I'm that type of Christian, with the pointy fingers. And like so then I start, because like I wanted a Christ-centered relationship that would lead to marriage so strongly. It was one of those things where like, all of a sudden I noticed like I'm trying to fake how much I love church. And I'm telling all about these amazing sermons that my pastor would preach and all this other kind of stuff. And I was just lying through my teeth, And it's almost like, I don't know how you women have it, but it's like you have like a sixth sense. Like you can just tell if a guy is not telling the truth. And to me, like the date just kind of stilted and it stopped, and then it just kind of fell apart. And I just remember just driving back where it's like, I really got to act on that church experiment thing. I get talking later that night with my best friend. He was in DC, and like he challenged me, like, you got to do something with your life, Dave. And I told him about this church idea, and he's like, oh, I'd be interested in that. It's like, we have had these theological tug of wars for the past several years. Like now you're interested in this. So like to me, like this whole spiritual project was kind of like, let's do like a first date instead of like just the terrible first dates I'm going on. Let's just do a first date with a different church each week, And that kind of started things off. So early on, these church visits, it's almost like I was kind of like gearing it towards the first date.
Cool. Yeah.
So testing things out.
Yes.
Not taking it too seriously. There's something nice about framing it as a first date. It's specific. Just getting to know each other.
You look online, you look at their profile, you kind of check them out. You look at the church time, you'd show up for the date or you'd show up for the church service, and you'd walk in, with a lot of nerves. and just like, where's this going to go? Is this going to be the, the not necessarily the true love, but the true church that I've been looking for? Over time, like that just, sometimes like you go on a first date, like sometimes you don't want to go.
Oh yeah,
Over
maybe every
time,
time.
like,
I
there
always
be
get like a little panicked right before.
the little panic
I
attack.
was like, why am I doing this? This whole like
Yeah.
starting over again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to keep doing this. So like there'd be times where it's like you're going in for the first time. It's just like, I don't know about this. But I think over time, like it's just thinking about it, it's like sometimes you go into church, sometimes you go into a date, and like sometimes like you're just kind of reflecting, like that stained glass window glow is just kind of like hitting you in a certain way. And it just kind of like forces you to kind of think. And it's like, I got to move forward. I got to keep going on this because you never know what's right around the corner. Right.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, so it literally was kind of like a 51st date scenario. You were like,
Yeah.
I just need to push myself into uncomfortable territory. And you felt like you were kind of like a Christian in name only. I'm curious, actually, this is
Mhm.
just a side note. Did you eventually decide to branch out beyond Christian churches?
I was so interested in that.
Yeah.
Like I was taking requests from friends, and again, all my friends were like atheists, like they were ex-Christians.
Mm.
So like I had someone who wanted me to go to like a Purim festival with like a Jewish synagogue,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then I did a Baha'i
Mm-hmm.
temple, so I was curious about that. But then after the Baha'i visit, it was like one of those things where it's like, wow, I don't really know if I can give justice to non-Christian type of religions because, like, to me, like I was looking for Christ,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anytime like
makes
I would
sense
go
to me.
into,
Yeah.
yeah, anytime I would go into some of these different type of worship centers, like it just wasn't. And besides, the name of the whole thing was churches.
Yeah, that's true. You'd have
So at the
to.
same point, like I did want to like just focus on churches. So like even though it wasn't Christian, like I did like a church of Scientology, which
Mhm.
was right
Church.
a decade ago in just all these kind of Hulu specials. I don't know if they were around a decade
Yeah.
ago, but like that was a big thing like a decade ago. And at that point, it was weird too because the media was pushing the idea of atheist churches.
Mm-hmm.
So like I even want to do something like that, but like no one was there and I left. And then I went to some other, it was like the worst church visit I ever had because this church in Texas was doing a wordplay off of 50 Shades of Grey, the erotica book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the pastor was using that for search engine results for his own book to capitalize off of that. So it was like, again, like I
That's
mentioned
dark, David.
really wrong.
Feels
Like it was a
pretty.
little bit like Homer's Odyssey. Like I don't know what is next. I don't know where I'm going to land. And just some of the craziness that a church congregation may have, you just never knew.
Yeah.
I would try and go in as blind as I possibly could.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Even
smart.
putting yourself at times in potential danger. Who knows? Which is how some
Oh
people
yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's kind of no getting away from it. This is like a little bit of a dark comment, but it's just true. A lot of the times when people are seeking out, honestly, when people end up in cults, when people end up in different communities, it's because their hearts are so open and sometimes broken. And I feel like that can make us quite vulnerable. And so it's a really special and specific kind of thing to try and find a community like that. And I don't think it's a small thing to open yourself up to what could potentially be dangerous because, of course, it's like there are some serious power structures at play in every system that kind of claims to have a funnel for religious power or for divine power or for access to God. And so it really is a risk. Like it's a very risky thing. I think it's worth people's time. I think it's worth the search. And I think that you're a product of that, a beautiful product of that. But
Mallory, one thing, never go to a snake handling church when the pastor invites you into his basement, because to not feel safe,
what?
you just go to the snake handling church and
I
be
see.
invited and go down there.
How did it work? You didn't go. You didn't go in the
Oh,
basement,
yeah.
or you did go? You
There was no internet. Like I had like
wow.
my Google Maps was not working. And like it was a miracle I even found the place when that stopped working. But it's like if I go down here, like, all right.
Yeah.
But they were
Yeah.
great. They were great. So it's like it was a very family focused congregation that just had a lot of snakes in their basement.
A lot of snakes. Can I ask what the significant? I haven't seen this particular video. I'm obviously gonna go and watch it right now after this. But what was the significance of the snakes? Was it?
Or did they just happen to have snakes?
So
Yeah.
and again, this is kind of where I was struggling just with my own kind of Protestant background is they took more focus towards the end of the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, that mentions how, I can't remember the passage off the top of my head, but you know, if you had that Holy Spirit, like you'd be able to handle snakes and walk on scorpions and that kind of stuff.
Oh.
In the Appalachian Mountains, like especially West Virginia, like they would take that literally. At the time, like I thought it was West Virginia was the only, or this particular church, because they were featured on Vice, they were featured on all other type of channel. I thought it was the last snake handling church, and it's like I had so many snake preachers reach out to me afterwards, where it's like, oh no, there's
Wow.
more. We just can't lawfully like tell anyone.
That is
Oh.
really fascinating. I can see
That's
how working within the sort of, I mean, in terms of just visiting different, sticking within the Christian community,
Mhm.
the deeper you go, the more intricate and creative and wild. And there's like congregations of varying sizes, including so many that probably don't have strong digital presences or like, I don't know. That's just so fascinating. You've just seen so much.
Yeah.
I actually have a question, and this is just diving straight for the jugular. Not for you, just the, life.
The topic. Yeah.
The topic. So, I mean, when we were chatting about this conversation, it was very cool as we were building these links and you were talking about how like just how people socially receive you in such different ways and how that shapes your whole experience of like, do I belong here? Do I feel God here? And how this eventually taught you a lot about commitment and, eventually your own decision to convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But one of the questions in light of Mallory bringing up cults that I have often thought about is like, to what degree is committing to anything a little bit like joining a cult? I've never really understood where the firm boundaries are. People seem to just throw around that term whenever there's a community that they don't like, I don't, or
And
whenever
it's lazy too, because there's so many where racist or Nazi or just there's no thought behind it other than insult.
exactly.
Yeah.
But sociologically, I don't think it's like really a real term, except for in the fact that like anything is cultic from a sociological perspective if it is deliberately designed to like create in-group belonging. But that could be anything from Scientology to Delta Airlines, which I admit sometimes I feel quite bamboozled by Delta. Anyway, in terms of
Oh, I tried Spirit one time. I'm never doing Spirit again. Well, I will go to the Delta call
Delta,
for the future flight.
I don't know. They just keep changing the terms on me. It used to be a big good deal, and now I'm just like locked in. I feel like I'm anyway.
Reading those
That's
Sky Miles.
but I guess my question is, when you join anything, you should expect to be transformed somewhat, right? Like, why else would you join it? And I'm curious, as you were like encountering all of these different churches, when does committing or going deeper into something feel like you're going into some mysterious unknown? Or are you supposed to feel like you can see the whole way through? And I think it like relates to relationships a lot, because I think a lot of people with relationships, even good ones, can kind of experience like a loss of control or like so much uncertainty. And so there's a part of me that's like, maybe there's something about our fear of not knowing all the terms. Who knows what a marriage is going to look like once you're on the other side?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's uncertainty and risk in any sort of commitment.
I think I know where your train of thought is going.
Yeah.
Typically, like one conversation I had with my missionaries as I was tire kicking for close to 2 years. And again, I was just talking with the missionaries originally just due to this church experiment. Like how how do churches follow up? And it's like, they keep calling me. All right, I will continue on with this. But like, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm more curious and curious and curious. But I think, Diana, you kind of mentioned it with the fear. And I think that's so true just in dating or going the next step, because like even in my own dating history, like sometimes it's like things are going really, really well. The next step is maybe that I love you or, the talk. And sometimes compare dating between my 20s and my 30s, completely different because the 30s, I encounter more fear from women. And like I was,
fear you or you fear women?
no, women fearing the next step with me,
Yeah.
and not necessarily with me, but just,
In general.
removing, shutting those doors, removing other opportunities and dealing maybe with the past or traumas or anything. This is where, we're so complicated. And I think one thing that really stuck out to me, because I was wrestling with this, where it's like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, was this conversation I had with my missionaries. We're talking about Jesus Christ. We're talking about the disciples on the boat. And it was one of those things where for Simon Peter, he's this, he just goes after everything. But when Jesus is walking on the water, he's reaching for his hand. Simon Peter, like he has that fear. He's looking out on the ledge of this boat. And like, that is like probably the most fearful thing I could imagine. I can't even swim. So for me, like I can barely do that. So what Simon Peter did is like, he's overcoming that fear and taking the next step towards the hand of Jesus Christ, And so sometimes like for, the culture and kind of that growth and taking next steps, like I didn't really think when I got baptized, like it was going to be like a big thing or anything. But it was like when I was being baptized, like I just saw this picture of Jesus Christ, reaching his hand out to me because I had so many doubts. And it was one of those things where it's like, I'm overcoming the fear. So I think like with your question, Diana, it's just kind of taking the next steps for something more, even though you don't know what's on the other side. And I think that's so true in relationships or marriage or, those dreams where it's like, you have to take that step at some point. And it's one of the most scary things you can possibly do.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, can you discern between like a good type of fear and then like an actually creepy type of fear? And like, I'm sure you have stories about visiting churches that maybe like gave you like a creepy feeling.
Mhm.
What is that? And do you feel like that's like discerning something like when your fear is telling you you're scared, but you like walk in closer, this will be good for you versus run?
Yeah. For like danger, I don't know, like as a guy, like I just don't, I feel comfortable,
Yeah.
There's other congregations
Even in
where
the snake basement. That's
it's
on your
I've been in the
privilege.
snake
Appreciate
case.
it.
I will say, like, there was one time I went to a biker church in Paducah, Kentucky. And, I one of the things I try and do, because, I want to look like I fit in. So, I just wore some of like a good black shirt, some ripped jeans, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was like one of those things where it's like going into the biker church, I didn't look like everyone kind of knew right off the bat. Like, he doesn't have a neck tattoo. Like he's not from around here. And not only that, but it's like all the bikers have like these copper tone tans. Like they've been
Yeah, from being
sun
on the
drenched
road, baby.
on the
Yeah.
road. Yeah. And me, like office worker, I'm just like, yeah, I don't have that. But
Should have got a
so,
fake tan.
right, I should have.
It's a little mystic tan.
A little bit. But yeah, I think sometimes like I'll be like, I'll take out my phone and I'll start recording. And I could tell immediately where it's like, okay, I'm surrounded by all these bikers. I'd better ask someone if it's okay to do this. So I talked with a biker in the back, and he warned me where it's like, yeah, you don't want to do, because they were worried because sometimes they didn't know if someone that was new in the congregation, if he just got out of the slammer, if he had any kind of enemies. So a lot of times these ushers were acting as bouncers at the same time, just in case. This past weekend, I went to Mark Driscoll's church, and like over 200, 300 church visits, like I can tell different seating arrangements and just different things with discernment. And
Mm.
it was one of the more interesting, like security, undercover security type of measures, because they would have like two guys perched looking out at the congregation. And then on top of that, everyone had facial hair. And they'd even have like tough guys sitting by themselves solo up front. And it was like, this, I never see guys by themselves sitting in front of a church. So it was almost like, okay, this is like a security measure just in case like some crazy tries to attack inside. That's all speculation on my end. But there are certain things like after you've gone to so many different church services where it's like, that's different. There's something going on there. So
Wow.
yeah, from a danger perspective, not so much, but like I can tell now to a certain level if something's going on, if it's just not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What a unique perspective to be able to even sense from a seating arrangement, because all those things are designed intentionally, but also they tend to be grandfathered in over time. And so while they may have been started for a purpose, they might not continue for a purpose. And somebody like you, again, provides a fresh perspective. This whole train of thought here, about kind of when you're right to be afraid or when you're not, or when a community really poses a threat to you, or a relationship even, because you are kind of committing to letting something transform you. And I keep thinking about this prayer that I heard from, I think it came from one of the Alcoholic Anonymous group sort of things that I've been exposed to over the past couple of years. And it was, God, please only bring me relationships where you can come first and I can be me.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think those two things at once, I think they tend to be really healthy guiding stars for these types of, like, am I going to get in a relationship with somebody where I have to pretend in order to belong, like I'm something else? Because that is scary. It's scary to feel like you have to conform to something that isn't you. Or am I going to get into a relationship where I'm not allowed to let God come first, which means a lot of things. That means a lot of things. It means I'm allowed to change. It means that if I keep my eyes on God, that I will continue to have that be my guiding star. But if that's actually not allowed, and particularly in a church, but I can imagine that sometimes that isn't exactly where people's focus is. It's more on maybe power or homogeny, or, you can have different guiding stars. But I've found that prayer to be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can figure out when you're right to be scared because one of those things is actually deeply threatened.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
That is beautiful, Mallory. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit more. I'm loving these stories too about like what it was like walking into these places. So you've shared a little bit about like what prompted you. You kind of just wanted to like be awake, be alive, have something like ignite, that Christian spark in you. And it
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like
I felt like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like I just felt like I was so on fire doing this.
cool. Very cool. How did other people respond as you would, yeah, because it's kind of like a first date with all of these places that maybe some of them are used to people asking them out all the time, so to speak. And maybe other people are like, wait, me? What are you doing here? You know what I mean?
Right. So a few different church, like typically the majority of churches, like they'd have greeters at the door. They'd open up the doors. You'd walk in. You'd have like a first contact to say hi. Sometimes then you'd have a second contact like right at the doors who would give you a bulletin. So there, like that seemed to be kind of the norm for things. And I do remember like the few times where no one said anything and I just walked in and took a seat. Like you didn't really feel welcome, because you didn't talk to anyone. There was no relational, personal touch that was involved when you'd walk in. There was, do you guys know who Stephen Furtick is?
I
He's
don't think I do.
this hunky megachurch pastor in Charlotte called Elevation Church. So I went to his church, and it's the seeker sensitive type of movement where it's all about church growth. They got in some controversy a while back because they would do what they would call spontaneous baptisms, where people would just like get baptized right now. And it's like you wouldn't think, and then you just get baptized in this big pool of water. And so when I went to that church, like it wasn't just someone greeting you at the door. They had like 20 to 30 people just like it was like a high school football game. Like you're running through and all the cheerleaders are just like with their pom-poms and
Yeah.
just, you know, and that was how you would get ready for the rock band fog machine light show concert for worship. And you would just like, it was kind of this, I call these like cupcake churches because they'd amp you up. They'd caffeinate you. They get that energy drink inside of you as you're ready to worship, you know, with the cotton candy colored lighting and everything like that. And everything is changing. And like you'd leave with this spiritual sugar rush, just all hyped up and, you know, go Jesus, you know? So there'd be churches where it's like, I think about that too, just from a dating aspect, where sometimes, you know, some people will love bomb you. They will just go all out and just, you know,
Another
just give
great
you,
comparison.
yeah, and just like get you super excited. And it's like this amazing first date. And sometimes it's like maybe the character isn't quite there, but they're able to sweep you off your feet. So some of those churches could sweep you off your feet. I think one of the most interesting things was just the gift giving that a lot of churches would do. The more old school ones, like Orthodox, I could get maybe like a postcard. It was just simple, nothing fancy. Christian Science gave me like their entire 700-page book. I'm sorry, I'm not going to read this, but thank you. And then, so other churches, I remember some would give like Starbucks gift cards and all these glossy brochures and stuff like that. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gave me not one, but 2 Book of Mormons. So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
One for the car, one for, I don't know.
Yeah.
What was
The
it?
toilet.
Just all the rooms.
You know, it's a great reading place.
All the rooms. So like to me, like sometimes I mentioned I was at that that Merck Driscoll church, so I actually still have this on my counter. So like you'd get bags.
Oh wow.
And
The
it's my
merch.
Midwest bag.
Wow.
Yes.
You go inside and, you know, they'd give you a book, you know.
Uh-huh.
Some churches would give you actual Bibles. A lot of them now give coffee mugs. So it was always one of those things where it was much more marketing based, much more branding.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the trajectory of kind of the more evangelical type of trajectory that I'm seeing a lot of the non-denominational type of churches going. I think one thing from my Protestant brain, as I was seeing everything with the church, was almost like, you know, there's so much comparison of Jesus Christ being the bridegroom, pursuing the church as the bride. And so when I would see some of these evangelical churches with the coffee mugs and the gift cards and just all these different kind of literature kind of books and stuff like that. But what I saw with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was it was more relational. It was more personal touch. It was more like trying to create a relationship with you the same way that you want to form a relationship with Jesus Christ. It wasn't all about these bells and whistles that you would get somewhere else because all these other churches don't really follow up. They'll follow up with emails, and sometimes like the best ones I would see would be the handwritten letters. Basically, the pastor would write to you. But that was pre-COVID. No one really does that anymore that I've seen anyway from my experience. And I was kind of thinking about this before I talk. One of my favorite Protestant preachers is Tim Keller, and he passed away, but he led this church congregation in New York City, in Manhattan, one of the most melting pot type of unchurched kind of cities that are just so secular. But he just was able to bring like an intellectual like way of speaking, especially to the young adults in Manhattan. And I remember one sermon called Love and Lust, and he talked about the Sermon on the Mount, especially when it comes to love and sexuality. And he explained it is like a consumer relationship that I was seeing in evangelical churches. If you're a store owner, you have a vendor, you have this consumer relationship where it's like, you adjust to me, but if your prices aren't what I like, I can go find something else, you know, and I'm out. as I was learning more with my missionaries, covenant relationship or covenants in general, that it was like, this is more based on commitment rather than convenience. And it's the relationship comes before like my own individual needs. And to me, like, it wasn't marketing. It wasn't that consumer-based approach. It was more covenantal. And I think when it comes to relationships or what you're trying to get, there are different gifts of covenant love. And what that does is it forms a zone of safety, not like a snake handling church or anything like that. But you don't have to market yourself anymore. You don't need to promote yourself anymore. Like, you're authentic. You can be who you really are. And that's where the deeper feelings will grow and where true love really deepens. Because in today's left-right dating culture right now, there's just so many different options. Like, how do you just distill it to one person right now? And you need that. You need sacrificial love. With this covenantal love, you can have true freedom. It's not just all based on fleeting feelings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A question that I've been wanting to ask as we've been chatting about these dates and these relationships with these churches is, I mean, because obviously it's a process figuring this out. Did you go on second dates with churches that you wanted to go on second dates with? Was that
That's
a
a great
part of your
question.
process as well?
So when I finished this the first time about a decade ago, I never settled. I never committed to a church.
Interesting.
So I went on second dates with some churches. And it's like, okay, like there was one church I really enjoyed in Illinois, and they were going to have like a comedian speak. I think his name is Michael Jr., I want to say. So it's like, all right, I'll show up there. And there were other churches I wanted to visit later on where, okay, I'm going to go there instead, but I never settled down. I was spiritually single. I was a spiritual free agent. I wasn't committed. So especially when I joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, people are like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be single.
Yes.
You can't settle down. You can't make this Facebook official.
You're supposed to be the ultimate playboy. Just
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I'm supposed to be a playa.
Yeah.
You can't go steady.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it really the first time that you just didn't feel there were no long-term relationships with other churches? I mean, really, the comparison feels,
The
I'm not
parallels
like
on
just,
this.
it's just very parallel. It's very interesting to me how parallel it is. Even what you're saying with like, hey, you're supposed to be the single guy. Like sometimes that's how people react when you suddenly have this person in your life, and people have so many opinions about the people that we date and the churches that we go to. It's very similar because they can feel very attached to our identities, to ourselves or to other people. But yeah, so you didn't have any long-term relationships with other churches, I guess.
Well, so yeah, it's like later on, like I was rotating between 3 different churches.
Interesting.
And then if I was dating
We've all done
someone,
it.
I'd go to
We
her
call it
church.
the lazy Susan. You can have 3 people in your lazy Susan.
The
Sometimes
roster.
when
I'm learning here. Let me take some notes.
Okay, this is all so fascinating, and I really love the metaphor. It really does work so well. Like, how do you find the one true church for you, right?
right.
But is
When you're
like,
not even looking. Yeah.
and
I
finding
had
your
no
one
intention.
true spouse, there really are so many metaphors, especially because I heard this one time, and it really helped me at a time when I was like kind of struggling with this concept of the church as the one true church, because I have always, I don't know about always, but for a long time just resonated so much with like, there's so much beauty elsewhere. And like, even if you don't want to talk about truths, just beauty and like so much to
Right.
appreciate about all of everything else that is beyond our church and what it offers. But yeah, I remember reading on I don't know who said this, but somebody was just talking about like maybe in practice, the one true church is kind of like having a one true spouse. It's not that this is the only spouse out there that could hypothetically be a spouse, but to like live in a committed way to it. You live as though it is the one true spouse. And
Diana, I love that so much. And that resonates a lot with me and my experience with the idea of there needing to be one true church. What feels more resonant to me is I had experiences with this church, or I was raised in this church. And so to me, that means God put me in a place to have it as a part of my story. I don't know exactly how. I don't know exactly and it's the same with you, David, that you've had experiences where you were literally having these experiences with cardinals that were making you feel like the symbolism in your life was guiding you to continue to go to church. And that feels more important than whether or not you discovered the one true church for the whole planet. Like, that to me feels more intimate as well, as far as a relationship with God. And I find that so beautiful. And I read several years ago that you were just talking about how, like, maybe like the conviction for like the other person can be a part of, like, I think this is the most incredible person in the world, and that's why I married them. Because I have heard before that one of the things that makes for strong couples is shared delusion about each other. That it's like, and it's okay to acknowledge that it's like, yeah, other people might prefer Brad Pitt, but I like this guy. I think he's better. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's beautiful.
Overwhelms me. I can't even contain it or express it. Yeah, totally.
Jim Rohn, I really appreciate like some of the public speaking he used to do. It's like we are a collection of our personal experiences.
Yeah.
And I feel, especially for members who are lifelong members, it can get like you're used to the same kind of thing. So when I come in and I'm sharing all these Protestant brain thoughts of mine, trying to figure out the church and just seeing all this symbolism, like, what is this? It's one of those things where it's like, I just see so much beauty in it.
Just as we're talking about beauty and finding beauty in things, I've been thinking a lot about how art, and the reason that we're interested in people's art, whether it's poetry or music or a film or anything, it's because we like the choices that they made. We don't even know why. They don't even know why they made those choices, but they make a series of choices, hundreds of choices. They choose this color instead of that color. They choose that paint instead of this paint. They choose this canvas. They choose this subject. And then we end up with this thing that just resonates with us. And I think that that's what I find so beautiful about this story and the experiences that you've had. It's that there's something about all of the choices, all of the conglomerate little pieces that resonate with your soul. And just like art, different things are going to resonate with different people. And I think that's the thing that's most important for us to be honest about, is that you move toward beauty, you move toward what's beautiful for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really.
I went on a date in Dubuque, Iowa, and as the guy, you have to kind of show that you have a clue. You have a little bit of leadership. Like, you can plan a date, because it's like, if you're going to plan a life together, you should be able to plan an hour or two of a fun activity. But it's Dubuque, Iowa. Like, what's there in the middle of January? So I look online and I find a paint splatter booth. Like, you just would go into a room and you would just throw all this paint at it. So I'm like, that sounds like I have a clue what I'm doing here to be fun,
Yeah.
So to your point, Mallory, like, it was such an interesting activity, because you are just flinging like all the goop and the gunk and and all this paint noises that are going on in this room as you're just spraying this canvas with all this paint. But I think, like, especially as I get older, it's like sometimes you see these amazing pieces of art. It's just like, I wish I had that portrait. I wish I had that big picture. And sometimes I look at this portrait and it's just covered with all these sprayed paint, and it's like it's just all chaos. Like, it's not the perfect picture that I had hoped in my mind. But I think as you get older and, maybe plan A isn't quite going to work, like, there is a beauty in that as well. And, like, you just make the most of it. And there is, like, some of those artists where it's like they just pour like a paint can over the thing, but they're able to do it in a way that's actually beautiful. I'm trying to remember that gooey, gonky portrait that I made. It's like, I'm going to try and make the best of this.
I feel like we've circled around that a couple of times on this podcast, and we're pretty much in decision, right, Diana, that this is plan A. This is plan A. It's like so hard. it's so hard to admit that. But every time I do, I feel my shoulders come down and I feel myself be able to like breathe a huge sigh of relief when I just say, what if my gunky portrait is actually exactly what I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be working with, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that abstract art is just you set something entirely different, you know?
Yes, yes, you break rules without knowing. Your life ends up, what is it? Was it Joseph Campbell who says, you're on the path when it disappears? Like, you're on your
Mm.
path when it disappears. It's because nobody else has ever walked the path that you can only walk as you, with all these experiences, all of your context, wherever you came from.
I think this is something I've been thinking a little bit on during this conversation. And, as we were thinking of prepping to talk to you, David, because well, I know you wanted to ask us some questions, so maybe this is like a good transition into that. But like the difference between being a convert and being a lifelong member is very, very different. Like, um, you know, to the degree that I think both of them are prone to some kind of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome of the convert is like, I don't have deep history here. Can I really authentically embody belonging here? Like, is it enough that I read this, that I had this experience? Is it, just never knowing if you're enough? The imposter syndrome that I have with my belonging in the church is like, my life looks so different than what I thought it was going to be. And like, I find that like certain things that the gospel teach sometimes feel like they're in contradiction. You have to like balance two different principles and figure out which direction you're going to grow in and which direction you're going to like have a risk in. And if there's like, I think a weakness of our church, it really can kind of present belonging and commitment. Like you're 100,000% in the program. You feel perfect alignment with it. And that's so different from, Mallory, what you just said about, you're on the path when it disappears. Just think that that's probably an element that people feel like in marriages as well, too. Uncertainty. How do you know when you really are off a path versus just, this is just life? And the best I can say is like, maybe hopefully there are these touchstones that we all can return to where we're like, I know why I'm here. And there's something about whatever it is we belong to, whether it's a relationship or a religion, that helps us really meet reality where it's at rather than avoiding it. But I know you've been thinking about this a lot too, in terms of like having been a convert and what it feels like to be on this side and to be wrestling with some of these questions. So do you want to talk to us about the experiences that you've had dating in the church and some of the questions that you have?
So, imposter syndrome. So, I assume you're both Harry Potter fans.
Yes.
I
Gen Z
feel,
would not approve, but
yeah, as a millennial, that's what you grow up with, you know?
yeah.
So, to me, like, especially coming into the LDS world, like pop culture, is always kind of stuck in my head sometimes. So, like, I always kind of felt a little bit, especially after, or just thinking about joining the church, is like, am I going to be a little bit like Hermione?
Hmm.
Because in Harry Potter, she is considered this muggle born.
Ah.
She's not a pure blood. And sometimes as a convert, I kind of feel that way. I just see all these beautiful posts from friends, with these multi-generational temple photos and with family lines that go all the way back to the 19th century. And then there's me. And I'm the only one in my family to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, much to some pushback, from my pure family. So there is, like in Harry Potter, you have the Dementors. I have these like Dementor thoughts sometimes where, because I don't come from this long time Latter-day Saint family, that I may be quietly disqualified or seen differently, especially when it comes to dating or marriage, because I can't really bring my family into this. So my question maybe for both of you is, do you think that converts, like there is an or like maybe an unspoken bias in the dating culture towards converts, or is that just all me overthinking?
Diana and I might be interesting people to ask. She and I both have talked a fair bit about dating non-members a fair bit. And I think once you're having those kinds of conversations, you begin to like look for things that are more values based than having a complete identical background to somebody else. And I've been really grateful for that in my experience. And I can't really speak to other people's experience, but I definitely have talked with other women in the community, and again, mostly women, but who have heard some similar things from bishops and stake presidents even. I have a friend who lives in Boston, and their stake president at one point was like, listen, there are a lot of good men out there in other churches and in other places. Go find them. Just helping people know that it's actually quite elitist in some ways to think that you need that well, we're not all God's children. So that's one of the things that I think is a strength that you bring, and not just in the dating conversation, but in the body of Christ, in your congregations and everything. We actually do believe that the last shall be first and the first shall be last, that it doesn't matter when you show up in the field, all laborers will receive the same rewards. The rest is ego, dude. So it's like, if it's not just yours, but everybody's, that it's like, if we're actually talking about the fact that in order to be a Latter-day Saint, you're supposed to have certain scriptures memorized, you're supposed to have served as a bishop, you're supposed to have, a line that goes back to the pioneers, then we've missed the plot completely. That's actually not what Christ said at all. So it's a strength. I feel that way whenever I show up messy to anything. I'm like, remember, God said he'd love me no matter how messy I am. So, and not saying that being a convert is messy, but in this particular dichotomy you've set up. I'm sorry, that was my ramble. Diana, get in here. What do you think?
Your rambles don't sound like rambles. They sound like sermons. They're great. So yeah, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I value people with complexity. And one of the reasons that I struggled with dating at BYU and wasn't like, by that I mean like, I was always like, what are they really in it for? I never wanted to be locked into a relationship where people took things for granted, or maybe like just were kind of wanting to go along with the program because it's culturally what you do. I wanted to like really deeply connect with somebody. And I think the fact that you made this choice in your life shows like you're alive as a human being, and you were making like conscious, deliberate choices about how you want to live. And like you can look another person in the eye and be like, I'm alive in here. And, it's not easy to convert to something. So I don't know. For me, it's just like something that makes you interesting and textured. That said, just to validate you, yeah, the church is a culture. It has a culture attached to it. And particularly in Utah, you can feel that quite strongly. So I imagine you're just encountering more of that. But I hope that you meet and find somebody who appreciates all you bring, because it's a lot and it's very cool. So
yeah, I love what you were saying about the intentionality. It's like, I did this on purpose. I'm doing this on purpose.
Thank you.
But it sounds like you're encountering that. So like you can push back on us if you're like, no, seriously, it's really bad. Or
what's it been like?
Yeah.
Like, I just appreciate, kind of to Diana's point, like, appreciate deep thinking. Just let's not surface level kind of stuff. Like, let's go deep, And it's very difficult in today's like dating environment, because it's all left, right, click,
Yeah.
Like, here's one picture. Like, someone just puts like maybe like a 2-word answer for a prompt. It's like, it's so, again, a little bit more marketed, consumer-based. The term I've been using lately is just sometimes like you feel like you have romantic leprosy.
Oh,
You have this thing where, especially after a relationship or a situationship or someone that you've been dating, and it's like everything is really positive, and you could kind of maybe see, okay, maybe I can start filling up some dreams. And then all of a sudden it's over. And there is this stretch where like you just feel like a leper. You are just by yourself in the wilderness, and you're just kind of like, what am I? And like your confidence just completely disintegrates. And there's a weird thing too, that especially as I get older, where it's almost like now where I'm challenged, where it's like stay away from me. Like, especially if someone is trying to pursue me, it's like, I'm not my full self right now. I'm not 100% emotionally, spiritually, whatever. Like, I don't feel like I'm in my center. And there's this weird kind of thing as you progress where it's just, again, this romantic leprosy where only Christ can really kind of heal you.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's this, I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but there's this Eckhart Tolle quote that I love where he's basically saying, how do you let go of attachment to things or people? You just stop trying to find yourself in them. You know, you stop trying to fill the God-sized hole inside you with another person or with another person's opinion of you, or what can feel like when I'm hearing the term leprosy. I mean, I've felt this way before, for sure, that it's just, what is so wrong with me that nobody's picking me? What is to basically, that's you putting your attachment or filling the God-sized hole with everyone else's opinion about us. But like you said, the only thing that will fill that hole in a way that will sustain us in any real way is God. Whatever people like to call their God, too, which is another part of this conversation that's really confusing and hard. It's like, I think probably something that we all three of us have in common, I'm hoping I'm not speaking out of turn, is that we're looking for somebody who at least overlaps with us a decent amount in the way that they approach life, right? I think that there are things that make it easier as you get older. The hope is that we become more authentic as we get older. We genuinely find it repugnant to hide some things about ourselves because we've grown to learn that we can actually handle being alone in this way with this thing as long as we don't have to pretend it doesn't exist. Like this part of me that I used to act like, I'm going to use a dumb example, but like I snort when I laugh. And so I'm never laughing on dates because I'm so embarrassed that someone's going to think I'm a little piggy. And then eventually you're like, I love laughing. I'm just going to find someone who likes my snort laugh. You know what I mean? It's like that, I hope, is like one of the perks of getting older. But our spiritual complexity is tricky. Like to match up with somebody when you're maybe both a member of the same church in a similar black and white thinking way, I could see how that would make a match a little bit more straightforward in some ways than trying to really, like, I find myself asking, like, okay, if not God, what is this person worshiping? Because they're worshiping something. We all do. And the truth is that, yeah, I don't know anything other than trusting kind of my soul, my intuition, the spirit, trying to make sense of like, do I feel like this person's genuine in the way that they're approaching life? What do I feel like they're centering their choices around?
Yeah.
When they're really striving, what are they turning toward? You know, are they like, and do they tend toward anger and blaming other people? Do they tend toward victim mode, or are they in creator mode in their life? Are they actually, do they seem like they're seeking from a source that is actually working? And, you know, those are really broad questions but like they vary so much from person to person, but it's not as easy. Do they sit next to me as do they sit next to me in the same pew? It's just too complicated. And maybe some of it's age and maybe some of it's not, but that's what my world looks like right now.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. I heard this one thing where, you know, in the dating world, so much red flags. And like, there was a point where it's like sometimes I felt like a red flag, but then other times I felt like a white flag. I just want to surrender. I just give up on all dating. But then it's
Wait,
like,
are
oh,
you
maybe,
saying that you're entirely a red flag or entirely a white flag? Or are you saying
well,
you're
sometimes I'm a
spotting red
green
flags?
flag. I was
Do you
saying like,
think you're one
I'm
flag?
the Italian flag. I'm all three at some point.
There we go. I like
I
that
am.
more.
Sometimes I'm a red flag. I'm not ready to date. Other times I'm a
Right.
white flag. I'm done with dating. And then sometimes it's like, I want to sacrifice. I want to find someone where I can just enhance her life, you know? So it's like, I don't want to get rid of my green flag either. It's just trying to get rid of that Italian flag and you make it a green flag, you know? And that's the complicatedness of where we're at, you know?
It sounds like you're a little hard on yourself, maybe. You
Dude,
know,
David, you're a green
Introvert,
flag.
introverts are so tough on themselves.
yeah.
Oh,
And just very aware of how people are responding to you. And all I can say is like, I don't know, who among us has not been like rejected or somebody's red flag? I think dating is so brutal. It just seems like a brutal way to do life, to put yourself constantly at the mercy of your peer group who you're not sure how they feel about you, and you're supposed to figure out how to play this game and get them to be attracted to you, and like you have to be in sync and you have to appear interested but not too interested and wear the right things, follow the trends enough but not too much. When do we get to just move on to a part of life where you have trust and safety with somebody and maybe it would just be a little more grounded and wholesome? I don't know if that's what you're experiencing, of just kind of this feeling a little bit weighed down by how hard it is to just have confidence in, a dating environment where you're supposed to be like impressive according to criteria that you can't clearly see. It's hard. Yeah.
And the weird thing about it all, it's like there's beauty to it,
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like I
Say
don't
more.
feel like I would like I like being where I'm at the same point. Like there's things I've
Right.
experienced, especially doing all the church visits and all that kind of stuff, where it's like I don't know if I ever could have done this if I had, a wife and kids and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So I think especially what I appreciate about you two so much is just, okay, here's the hand we've been dealt. How do
Right.
we find purpose? How do we
Yeah.
find ways where maybe we can't be sacrificial in a family type of context, immediate family context, but how can we use our talents and our gifts to still serve and give inspiration, even with this podcast, and just give a light to people who may be going through the same type of struggles and challenges and uphill battles that we all tend to go through.
Mm.
That's honestly so lovely to hear, David. And okay, don't hate me for this, but I kind of want you to do 52 dates with people now.
Yeah.
And then report back to us and we can talk about there's so many similarities and you're already
Put them
primed
on
for this,
YouTube.
baby. You've got this. You know?
To me, it's just one simple marriage in a lifetime. That's kind of the goal. So it's like I don't want to be dating the field or anything like that. I date the field
guess
with the
that's
church
fair.
visits.
Sure. And it's honestly is a really cool service that I feel like you're offering to people who are just curious and might just, you never know what they're going to be sparked by. So I think it's really, really a cool thing. But,
Yeah.
I would love to follow up with you after you've dated in the church for a little while longer and chat with you more about it because like you've mentioned, Diana and I have a very different experience. And so your perspective is really, really valuable and interesting. And you brought up having a relationship with Jesus Christ, and this weird thought came into my head. But because you also brought up, the bridegroom pursuing the what's the best way to say it? The church or the people or the person, and
The church, the bride,
Christ would
yeah.
marry us in a heartbeat. Is the thought that I had, that it's like, because when you're seen clearly, people reveal how lovable you are. That's one of the reasons it feels so good to be loved, is because they reveal like the truth of us. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that like, why is it so demoralizing when something doesn't work out? And it's because it feels like that isn't true anymore. But I actually think the reason it felt good was because it was true. That it was being revealed to you how lovable you are and how loving you are. And that's why it felt so good to be in that relationship. There was truth in there, even though the long-term truth wasn't, this is my person. I think that's kind of where we get so outcome focused. But really what we were experiencing was that incredible feeling of like, this person loves me and I love them. Even if it's just for a day, you can feel that kind of incredible feeling. And I don't know. I like to think about that deeper truth whenever I can get some energy from it, that actually you're so deeply lovable. It's really wonderful to be with you, And so like a church pursuing you makes sense. They want you to be a part of it, and anybody with half a brain would come after you. And that is true of all of us. I really believe that. So we got to sit there more, I really believe it.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. This was really good and very just fascinating, our just different positions in the church and the way that our struggles align and don't. And like, anyway, I
like the vulnerability. That's the thing. And it's like, this was a very vulnerable, real world type of conversation.
Yeah, it was. So, well, let's do another one sometime.
Okay. I am all on board.